This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
What's up, everybody? Ricky Widmer here, along with the one, the only, Brandon Swanson.
Hey.
And we are back for another edition of the Primetime Podcast right here on Most Valuable Podcasts. This is your one-stop shop for college basketball and football analysis. But Brandon, what season are we in? What season are we in right now?
Football.
We're in football season. Going all through football season. Basketball, I know, has started. We'll get to that after we get through all of this football. We got a jam-packed show for you guys. However, before I get into that, got to get into the housekeeping before the podcast. First off, if you have not already, patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast. That link in the description. If you want to help out the channel more so than watching our videos, liking our videos, sharing our videos, make sure to check out patreon.com/mostvaluablepodcast for $10. You can be on a podcast with us each and every month talking about whatever it is in the world of college sports you would like to talk about. And then second item is go on to iTunes and give us that sweet 5-star rating that we oh so want. We'd be very appreciative if you can go out and give us that 5-star rating. It would mean the world to us. Primetime Podcast, The Onside Kick, The Fast Break, and the Rick and Johnny Podcast. But Brandon, like I said, another jam-packed show. Last week was kind of a stinker week. If you didn't watch any of the games, I don't think you missed anything. Mercer lost, and man, I wish I didn't bet anything on them. Also, the Citadel lost to Clemson. Yet again, wish I didn't bet anything on them.
You did?
I did not. Those are jokes, Brandon. I did not make that big of a faux pas in our picks last week. But just to me, very uneventful games. Eventful early, not eventful late. And if you didn't watch last week, you didn't miss much. However, this week, loaded with games that we're going to be discussing in our picks. We're going to look at the biggest one in our middle segment. We're going to look at Chip Kelly, though. Then we'll look at the Iron Bowl. And then we'll end everything before our picks looking at Baker Mayfield and his NFL draft stock. But Brandon, I want to get this right away. Chip Kelly was going to be met with Florida, apparently. Everything looked to be leading to him being the Florida head coach. However, yesterday on Sunday, UCLA said, whoa, not too fast. Jim Mora's out of here. Hey, Chip, you want to come over here? Come here, good guy. Come here, come back to the Pac-12. They are now trying to bring Chip Kelly in. So I'm going to be very clear with this. Where do you think Chip Kelly should sign? The Florida Gators, the UCLA Bruins. What do you think?
Well, if you're posing that question and you're making me give an answer,
I hope you give an answer.
One in terms of one or the other, I would say that he should sign at Florida.
Okay.
And the reason that I say that is because Florida is in such need of an offense, some sort of offense, other than the bad offense that they've had pretty much the entire season. They've had a defense that's been okay, really bad at times and really good at others, but an offense that's just, it hasn't gotten going. I don't think it's gotten going all season long. And what does Chip Kelly bring? He brings with him, one of the things he brings with him is an offense, an offensive scheme that has worked, and that's worked really, really well. And for any team that needs a kick in the pants for offense, Chip Kelly, I think, could be your guy. Now, having said that, Chip Kelly is very good offensively. He's very offensive-minded. And I think I've said in the past that Chip Kelly, I think, would be better suited as just an offensive coordinator
in college football.
Or possibly the NFL. Broncos need one now. But I think right now, if he were to go to Florida, I think he would be able to make some changes that happen right away. But also one of the possible problems of him going to Florida, if he did, would be the fact that he's a guy who likes total, complete control.
Yes.
And that's believed to be one of the reasons why it didn't work out for Jim McElwain. So that could be a possible issue. However, is Florida in a spot right now where they're so desperately trying to get someone who will come in, make a splash, and make things happen right away? And are they then willing to turn over more things to the head coach that comes in, whoever it may be? Are they more willing to give up more to Chip Kelly and say, okay, you can run this, run this, run this. You have control of this. You have control of this. It's your decision here, your decision there. Are they willing to do that? If they're willing to do that, I think that could be a good marriage between Florida and Chip Kelly. However, Chip Kelly brings some baggage with him. I think we know what happened with Chip Kelly towards the end of his tenure at Oregon. We know how he was in the NFL. We've seen how the guy can be. But I think, again, you pose the question
of where
UCLA or Florida, and my choice would be Florida, because I think that he can make more of an instant impact at Florida with what they've got or don't have. And I wouldn't necessarily see that as much with UCLA, even though UCLA is a Pac-12 school.
Well, and the thing is, first off, with this whole situation between Chip Kelly and just choosing between UCLA and Florida, there's a lot of things spiraling around this. First off, you've got Florida, which you mentioned needs a kick in the pants offensively. I was watching a little bit of College Game Day today at work, and I can't remember who said it, but he said, you know what? This Florida organization, or I shouldn't say organization, Florida school, they're not a fan base that wants to win the traditional way. They're not a team that wants to go out there and win 17-14. Yeah, we won with defense. They want to go out there. They want to blow the door. They want to Big 12 it, basically. They want to score 40-plus points, blow the team out, and have a big offensive performance. If you want that, Chip Kelly's your guy. The thing for Chip Kelly that I think about, and this is where it comes into, when you look at UCLA, this is a conference that you've played all of these teams at some point in your career at Oregon. I know you'd be in the South, not the North, so you'd be playing more of those teams you saw every few times every other year. But it's a conference, it's a region of, and I know that recruiting is becoming a little bit more national at this point. It's not just regional like it used to be way back in the day, but it's a region and you know how to get the recruits. You've already recruited for a West Coast team. It's a comfort zone at that point. The thing with Florida, and the only thing that worries me about Chip Kelly going to Florida is, could Chip Kelly compete with the SEC? Can he win in an SEC conference? Because the first thing I thought about is, for the SEC, not just Florida, this is a whole conference now, they want Chip Kelly. If you are an SEC fan, you should be praying that Chip Kelly comes to your conference. And the reason being, one of the big kind of complaints that people have had, and Colin Cowherd's one of the big ones that I've heard say this, and he's not completely wrong, is there's a lack of quality coaches in the SEC. It's Nick Saban at the top, and then it's like Kevin Sumlin, who we've talked a lot about.
I want to jump in. I want to jump in, and I want to disagree with that, because I wouldn't say that there's a lesser quality coaches,
but no one that can compete with him.
No, but hold on now. But that doesn't mean that they're not a quality coach. They could still compete with. Let's throw out some of the other big ones. Georgia was in the top four, the number one team for a while. There's other schools out there that can compete with a Georgia. I mean, you saw that. Auburn was able to compete with a Georgia, so I think that you have to put Gus Malzahn. Gus Malzahn has been one of those guys who's been kind of on and off the hot seat, but he's also been revered as a very good head coach in college football. I think Dan Mullen is looked at as a very good head coach in college football. Kirby Smart's a great head coach in college football. So I don't think that you can say that you have lesser quality coaches. You have really good quality coaches, but Nick Saban is on a level by himself. So, which, as you've said before in the past, put Nick Saban, put Alabama off to the side. Let's not even talk about them. Let's talk about everybody else. And then if you're doing that, you have really good quality coaches. So I think that's you misspoke in a sense of saying that there's lesser quality coaches. They're all very good. So when I hear lesser quality, I think that Nick Saban's great and the rest of these guys are crap.
Well, and what I was going to say, if you were going to let me finish,
but I didn't, of course.
From what I've said, and I've said Colin Cowherd was the one, lesser quality was what they were coming with. For me, how I see it, Nick Saban's at the top. I know there's been guys like Les Miles has been able to defeat Nick Saban. You've got guys like Kevin Sumlin defeated him when he had Johnny Manziel. Nick Saban's not completely perfect, but Nick Saban has been consistently a great head coach for the SEC to where everyone says Nick Saban's at the top, and it's like everyone clawing up that mountaintop but not being able to get there. The thing that I would look at is for the SEC, if you're on that side, you want Chip Kelly to come because that's a name that you can say, I can see it already. Chip Kelly coming in, making Florida an offensive powerhouse. Years to come, you've got Alabama and Florida, now two powerhouses in the SEC. Now, is that going to happen? I don't know. Time would tell. But on the other side with Chip Kelly, does he see that? Does Chip Kelly see, I can go into Florida, I can be successful, just as successful in the SEC, or is he going to see, you know what? I'm going to go to where I'm comfortable because I know I can be successful in the Pac-12. If I'm an SEC, if I'm even a college football fan, you might be rooting for him to more go over to Florida because that would just make the best conference in college football even stronger.
Yeah, I mean they would be very strong. And I want to just also, I don't want people to think that, oh, he's going back on what he said at the beginning, but you definitely have positives that when you go with Chip Kelly. And another one of them is being that he would be able to recruit from a state that has a lot of talent, from a region that has a lot of talent. That's another thing.
Well, most of the top recruits come from that southeast.
Well, exactly, and that's why he's a guy who has, I think if you look at it, has revolutionized what offense is in college football, and a lot of people have tried to go off of that type of method, whether they're doing exactly what he did or something similar to it. He's been able to do that for college football, which is a great thing. So he's definitely got those positives there, but I don't want to downplay the fact that he wants complete control. Wherever he's at, he's going to want complete control of the offense of the team. He wants to be the decision maker when it comes to everything, and that's just not necessarily what teams are always willing to do. Is Florida willing to give him that complete control? I don't know about that. Is UCLA willing to give him that complete control? I don't know about that either. If you want him, you're probably going to have to do that, but at the same time, is that then going to be, and you're never going to get the perfect marriage. I mean, even in real life, you don't have the perfect marriage. You have arguments and things like that. I assume. I mean, I'm not married, but I still think though that you want to get something really, really close. And for Florida, the way that they've been the last couple of years, the way that they've kind of gone through a couple of head coaches that have been, they've been good, they've been okay, but they haven't gone to where they wanted to be. And that's certainly the playoffs, and that's then certainly competing for a national championship. They want the next guy to be the guy that they're going to be with for 5 years, 7 years, 10 years down the line, where they're competitive each and every season, where they're getting to the playoffs, where they're like an Alabama, like a Clemson, that is consistently getting to the playoffs every year. And it's just a matter of, are they 1 or are they 4? So I think that that's got to be one of the really hard decisions at the end of the day. Is Chip Kelly the guy to do that? And if you don't think he is, but you think that he'll still bring, for the first year to maybe 2.5 years, he can still bring that Chip Kelly flash because, he did this, of what he did with Oregon. This is what he did. He may not be doing it right now. It's not working here, but man, he did it. So we've got the potential here. I think that that's also too, but whenever you hire, You're going a lot of times off of potential or what they've done in the past, not what they've done for you, because what worked at Oregon may very well not work at Florida, and it may very well still not work at another Pac-12 school in UCLA. You just have to go with the hope that he'll continue to bring that success that he had at Oregon over to your school, which is where it gets really interesting, because you could say that with anybody then. You could say that with any of the other guys. Dan Mullen, Kevin Sumlin's name has been thrown out there. So it really comes down to who you truly believe is the best fit for your squad, for your program. And if that's Chip Kelly, you go with them and you try and work it the best you possibly can. But if you really don't then feel like it's going to be Chip Kelly, even though you know that your fan base may really want him because that offensive mind and everything like that, you can't give in. For Florida, this is really, really something that they have to take a long look and not rush. I think we just talked about this a little bit last week. Don't rush into it. Don't rush into a hiring.
You're
just
saying
because you want
from Chip Kelly or from the school?
From the school.
Okay.
This is all from the school. Is don't rush into it too much right away, because you're going to see when the season ends, you're going to see some other guys that leave their programs, are fired from their programs for whatever reason it may be. Are they a better fit? Are they a better fit for your team? It doesn't necessarily have to be Chip Kelly, because he's not going to be the only guy who's available right now, and clearly he is not.
Well, it depends on how much you want him. That's what it comes down to, because...
Exactly, but that's where I'm also coming from, saying as a school, you have to be looking at, is he the best fit, or is he just the really fun toy right now, but, Christmas is coming, there's going to be other toys under the tree.
Well, and I mean, that's why for me, I feel of the two schools, if Chip Kelly were to say no to one of the two schools, I feel like Florida would be better off with a no than UCLA, because UCLA, it comes down to, I'll be completely honest, the only two reasons that they fired Jim Mora was, number one, they lost to USC. I believe if they beat USC, they don't make the firing yesterday, because they go into their office, they being the athletic director and the board of directors, they go into their meeting and go, fuck, how do we get rid of him? How do we, what reason do we use? He just beat USC. He beat our biggest rival. Because he lost to the rival, it was easy to distance themselves and cut him loose. Second reason being, oh, shoot, Chip Kelly's in serious talks with Florida. We got to jump on this. Boom, Jim Mora's gone. Our job is open. So that they can try to reel Chip Kelly into that job. Reason why I say Florida would be fine if Chip Kelly said no, there is, and I know this is a little bit, some people may think of this as small potatoes, but you've got a coach right now doing great things offensively with a team that was, defeated last year, didn't have a single win. Now they don't have a single loss, and that's Frost at Central Florida. I feel like if Florida doesn't get Chip Kelly, what I would do is, okay, that's fine. We're going to move our attention to Frost when the season is over, and he'll be able to hopefully, because let's be honest, Central Florida's great, but if Frost has an opportunity to go to a Power 5 school, he's going to go to a Power 5 school. Let's be completely clear about that.
Well, and my whole thing with that all the time, Ricky, and I think that it was even part of me with Tom Herman, when he was with Houston. And it's not to say that these guys who are in non-Power 5s can't coach in the Power 5, because that's ridiculous to say, but
it's just the prestige of the job.
It is, but I think also sometimes people get really excited when, oh wow, University of Central Florida, they're 10-0. Man, that's a good team. That must be a really good head coach. And I don't want to take anything away from the team or the head coach, but you're playing Maine and Cincinnati and SMU and teams like that. You're not playing Virginia Tech or Clemson or Georgia or I'll even say, USC, one of the better teams in the Pac-12, or Oklahoma. You're not playing those teams. You're not playing the teams with stronger competition. What do you do when you play teams with stronger competition? Tom Herman, he's come in and Texas has had some really good games this season, but they've still have had a mediocre season. But no one thought, I don't believe, realistically thought that he was going to come in and everything was going to be perfect,
hunky-dory
in year one.
12.
And he even said that. He said that's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. We've got a long ways to go. We clearly saw that. He said that after week 1 against Maryland, where they had a really tough loss. He said it's not happening in week 1. He said it's not happening in year 1. But I think, though, too, is that you get real excited about these guys who've done super, super well with a non-Power 5 team going against lesser competition. Mm-hmm. What do they do when they go against this really good competition? I mean, you would like to expect and hope that they would still continue to do well against the higher competition. Your big boys in the SEC or in the Big 12, ACC, Big 10, stuff like that. But will they? I mean, that's the whole thing. But at the same time, you have to, on the other hand, you have to give those guys chances, because they could become the next big thing. They could become the next Urban Meyer, and you just don't know until you give them the opportunity.
Well, and the thing that I look at this is going a little bit away from Chip Kelly into the Florida situation, but the thing with Scott Frost, and this is if Chip Kelly chooses UCLA, that I look at is you have to look at where the school was and then take a look at what happened when that coach came on. Because you look at Scott Frost, he comes on 2016. Like I said, this was a team that had three coaches in 2015, didn't win a single game. Frost comes in, 6-7 season right away against, and the opponents, I get they're not a Power 5 opponent, but what did you do against those opponents that the predecessor couldn't do in that last season? He went ahead and 6-7. Now after a year getting 2 recruiting classes in, they're undefeated right now, and they look like a really good team. You look at Tom Herman, somebody that you brought in. The thing with Houston, and I know it's lesser opponents, so I'm going to throw that out, but minorly, Houston wasn't a garbage team. Under Tony Levine, they were 8-5 2 years in a row. It was Tom Herman's coaching, I believe, that took them over the level and the culture that he set that brought them to 13-1 that next year, but then a 9-4 in his last season. With Texas, Mac Brown had a powerhouse, lost that powerhouse from 2010 to 2013. That's why he was eventually let go after 5-7, 8-5, 9-4, 8-5. And then Charlie Strong got in, but as we've talked about with commenters before and had this discussion of Charlie Strong might have not have been given the right opportunity, 6-7, 5-7, 5-7. There's a lot of things that Tom Herman has had to change with Texas that are different with that Houston. So the thing is, and this comes back to the last point that I was going to make about Florida and UCLA, when it comes to Chip Kelly, you have a program in Florida that over the past 3 years with Jim McElwain, 10-4, 9-4, both of the years that he's had full seasons, McElwain has won his division. This is the only year, 3-4 this year before he was let go. You have a potentially good team there still. With UCLA, yeah, Jim Mora's first 3 years, they were 9-5, 10-3, and 10-3. But since it's been, and I was looking at, overall, then they have 8-5, 4-8, 5-6. And these past 2 years, you're only getting, and I know Rosen was injured last year, so before you throw that out there, 4 wins and 5 wins. I'll give you the 4-win season was Rosen was injured, but you have Josh Rosen this year healthy, and your team only wins 5 games. That is concerning. So it looks into, for Chip Kelly, which team has the better standpoint. It might be Florida. it might be Florida looking at what they've done the last few years compared to UCLA.
No, I think you're right. I think you're right when you say that. And, again, it all comes down, the final thing at the end of the day, it's always going to be, it comes down to fit.
Yep.
Again, Chip Kelly, great at Oregon. But do they believe that he's also going to be what's right and best at Florida? Because you always have to look at that. Great. Oregon was awesome for you. You did great there. They loved you. Blah blah blah. Everything went well. You turned out. Marcus Mariota. But are you going to be that same guy and produce those same amount of wins, those same offensive numbers when you come here to Florida? And if you believe that he can do it, then he's your guy. Go after him. Go get him. But if not, then you can wait. You can wait, and that's okay. One of the things I wanted to mention about Frost was that there's been talk that he's going to go back to Nebraska. And there was even a whole thing that said that there was a rumor, 7-year deal, $35 million was out there on the table. So he comes out, he says they're totally false. Then also says, quote, I can promise you that no decision has been made, end quote. So is he talking with them, but nothing's been made, no decision's been made? That's where I'm kind of interested too, is that I'm thinking he may already be off the board going to someplace else.
Well, and this is where I want to turn it on to you guys. What do you guys think? First off, where should Chip Kelly go? Should he go to UCLA? Should he go to Florida? I'll be completely honest. By the time this goes up on Tuesday, I hope Chip Kelly is not decided. I hope he just goes to bed early tonight and lets us get this up first in the morning. But
because then we're going to have that one person who comments, he went to such and such. Well, thanks, buddy.
Let's put it this way. If he did choose by the time this went up, go ahead and tell us what you think about the signing. Also, let us know who the other schools could look at, UCLA and Florida, if Chip Kelly does not go to their school. Let us know who they should sign if they don't get Chip Kelly down below in the comment section.